Greetings, Star Trek Fleet Commanders. I am the Angry Rhino. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. First, I'd like to talk about what is the transmitter build the Universal Translator event, the 5-day long event with a new encryption every day. What I've been doing with the video that I posted about that, I've just been pinning an extra line to the comments of what the answer for the next day is. So, yes, you would have to load up my video because I don't think there's a way for you to just view comments on their own. For me, there is. But you should be able to view the comment at the top of the list because I pinned it, assuming I understand what that even means. And you'll be able to see so far up to day 4, day 1, day 2, 3, and 4. I've put the location of the scoring metric and what the task you have to do is. So there's that. I mean, a few people have asked over the past few days. It's fine. By all means, please keep asking. We'll get you the answer. It's fine. I'm just trying to tell y'all the answer should be there already. Hopefully. Been trying to get in there, around 12:30ish, or hopefully before that, depending on what my schedule is that day, and trying to put the answer up early. Some days it's worked better than others, but it is what it is, I guess. Alright, today's video. You see the event I'm looking at right here, Career Advancement Part 2. Part 1, I said there was no reason to really go after it because Galinar was there, and yes, I have Galinar Max, but there's a reason for that, because there's good sourcing for Galinar. What it appears they're doing here, the same officers as they've always been doing, or they've done in the past with his career advancement. You see Harry Kim here for Part 2. I would have to believe it's going to be more Voyager officers for Parts 3 and 4. And honestly, I don't even remember who they were. I mean, between Tuvok, Paris, Torres, and Neelix, it was those guys and girl. So decide which one you prefer, and maybe that's where you put more of your... Maybe that's the time frame where you spend more of your event store currency. Got a few more days. No, not a few days. Less than a day for this Harry Kim one, so people might be wanting to spend some event store currency to get some placement in here and get some Harry Kim shards, so I'm going to do my event store video now. So we're going to this event store. This Trip Tucker bullshit here, that's some paid bullshit. Don't even worry about it. We're going to go all the way to the end here. Throwback cosmetics, they're overpriced. Don't worry about that shit. Resources and materials, overpriced. Don't worry about that bullshit. Let's go into special currencies. There's not a whole lot that I really value here because I think a lot of these you can get elsewhere. Like active nanoprobes, Carver particles, Orb Splinters, that thing was bullshit. Independent credits, better sourcing elsewhere. Trade XP, better sourcing elsewhere. Really, for most of this shit. I understand with the mycelium, you guys like your jump juice. I have over 100,000 because I've been barely using my discovery. So, personal preference there. If you really want your jump juice, by all means, get your jump juice. I say, save your event store currency for something else. I know people like Syndicate XP. Really is going to depend on where you're at with Syndicate. I'm at the point where it's like 600,000 for a tier. So coming in here and getting 3,000 a claim isn't really moving the needle. So I don't see the value there. Trade XP. I know people like their trade XP. Get you them away team assignments, get them critical hits. But I do think the Bajoran Uncommon Armada chess pools are good sourcing for trade XP, so I wouldn't say get that either. Now, there are the two things that I see some value here in this special currency are the proto catalysts. Those are for tiering up forbidden tech, and the proto matter, which is for leveling up forbidden tech. Now, I have the whip, and I don't know, I have shit tons of proto matter. I don't think I just got it from the whip. I think part of it is being able to do some of the 3-star trials and the daily pull of that. So I hold a little less value on the proto matter than I would say the proto catalyst, but it is going to be dependent on where you are. And even if you are free to play, you should have the Metreon Cascade free to play. I think the Metreon Cascade is a good forbidden tech. So you're going to want to level and tier that up. Let's go to the next box here. It's cloaking. I don't really like anything in here. I think, and instead of skipping it, I'm telling you how pissed off I am. Well, I'm the angry rhino. Of course, I'm going to rant about something. I mean, I would love to have cloaking for my Sompek, but it's expensive as shit. It is way too expensive. Because especially if you think about this, how fast are you leveling up? How long, let's say you have a G5 rare, how long are you going to be using that G5 rare? How long until you get to level 60 and get an epic? So how long is this cloak actually going to be viable for you? At most 6 months, and then it's useless. You really want to spend event store currency on that? Shit tons of event store currency. And what really pisses me off, it's buy these dumb things or don't use it, because cloak is fucking dead as far as I'm concerned. Probably shouldn't have gone in this, and now I'm swearing and I'm being angry. But it really pisses me off that cloak is dead, because you get to the G4 rares and they're no longer available in the faction store, and I just think that's bullshit. They can be available in the faction store. Otherwise, it's stupid. Then none of the cloaks should be available in the faction store. It's so dumb. Jackasses. Alright, so let's go into the refits. I don't see a lot of value in here either. These salvage refits for the Enterprise, the D4, and the Augur, they're nice. One, they can be gotten elsewhere, like today for Apex, and they're not that good. The Continga Valdor Kelvin refits, I mean, they look cool. I mean, if that's your thing. But they only add a few rep, and honestly, how long are you going to be using those G4 uncommons? Again, right? Same what I said about the cloak. How long are you going to be using it? If you're going to be using it for like a year as a rep grinder, then maybe it's worth it. If you're going to be using it for like 3 months, because it takes how long to get from what? 42 or 43? 42, I guess. 42 to 46? How long are you going to be using it? Not that long, as far as I'm concerned. So, I don't think they're worth your event store currency. The Amalgam refit, it boosts the Amalgam's shipability. Are you a raider? Do you like raiding? There's probably some value here. I don't see a lot of value in there because I don't like raiding. Also, I'm at a high level now where even raiding with the Amalgam doesn't get me that much. Unless they're a player my level or higher, I'm just not getting that much. I'm not. So I don't raid. Plus there's a Monavine, so I'm getting all the shit from there. For the most part, players my level on my server have been around for a while. They're either have been around long enough to have good shield discipline, or they have shit discipline and are constantly being drained anyway. So unless I'm lucky enough to get it on the raid, I'm not raiding anybody that's worth my time. But it's something for you to decide. I know there's some people that highly value rating and highly enjoy rating, so it could be useful for you. This is really the only refit that I see a lot of value in, and it's because of some of these new loops, specifically the Zindi reptiles and the silent enemies. They don't have a ship for them, so what you can do is you can boost with your Cerritos and get a lot more currency. I see value in that, and I see value in extending the time of my Cerritos. What do I got? 7 minutes. Would I like to have 11 minutes? Killing Zindi reptiles? Sure. Some value there. I'm not saying that this is what I'm going to get, but it's on my list of things to choose from. Because some of the things I've just, written off my list, or not even put on my list to begin with. Come over to ship parts now. This is another one that really pisses me off. And the real main reason is because, to a certain extent, I think it was Eco that said this, was the reason why so many other things don't get added that we want, certain officers and certain refits, was because they don't want to clutter up the event store. Really? Then why are the transwarp coils for the Vidar Talios in the event store? You realize you get a set for free. You get a set for free. So what do you need one in the event store for? What do you need one in the event store for? Do you? Do you need one in the event store? If you have a second Talios, you know who has the second Talios? High spenders. Why don't you just give them the warp coils? They already bought a second Talios. What? Just give them. It's bullshit, is what it is. It's the same thing with the Franklin shit. The Franklin shit's still in here, and I say the Franklin is. Don't even worry about the Franklin. But there are a few ship parts in here I do see some value in. Forget the Defiance trash. You got spore components for the Discovery. You have to decide where you're at with your Discovery and where you would really like to be. If you're approaching 40 and you don't have a max Discovery yet, probably want to spend a little bit here. Max that Discovery. Yes, maybe you do kind of want to time it because you don't want to spend all your event store currency. Try to time it so you're maxing your Discovery around the time that you are getting the level 40, because those refinery claims for the Discovery give you shit tons of speed ups now. But you have to have a max Discovery. So there is some value in the spore components. I'm not telling you to get them. I'm just telling you to try to figure out, where you are at in your progression with tiering up your Discovery. Maybe get a few pulls to kind of increase the pace of your Discovery tiering up. Monavine, I think this exchange rate is trash. That might be because I'm at tier 10. And even if I limit 10 of this shit, 1,300, that's it. That's not even one component for me. Why would I waste 75,000 event store currency and I'm not even getting one component? That's bullshit. But now it doesn't appear to be going up with tier. So if you're a low tier in your Monavine, then maybe you could see some value in there. Titan, I think, is the same way. That I think the exchange rate is a little better. I think this is one component for me. Actually, I think 10 pulls might be 1.5 components. Not a tier. Not getting a full tier from your 10 chest pulls. You're getting 1.5 components. Oh my god, that's it? But I mean, it will speed up the progression. Is that worth it to you? I'm not saying that I'm going to buy it, but I'm saying I could understand why you might think it would be. Don't get the Cerrito parts because Voyager, in the Voyager refinery, you can get a lot of Cerrito parts there. Same for the Fuchsia and the Amalgam. So don't worry about those shit parts. Shape memory alloy for your board cube. I don't know, man. I mean, this isn't a bad exchange. But where are you at with grinding out shape memory alloys for your board cube? And where do you want to be with your board cube? And again, I'm just saying, I can see why you might see some value, and that's totally up to you. I'm not going to buy this, but I could understand if you do see some value here. And I would agree that there is some value there. How much? It's going to be up to you. Okay, and that's it for the parts. God. Usually, this officer tab is probably the one I save for last because I think it's the best. Wow. And this is why people hate this event store. I think this is the worst selection of officers in an event store ever. Of course, my first event store had all the Borg officers in it, like the old school Borg officers. 5, 6, 1, Fluffy, 7, 8, 9. They were in my event store. I didn't get that many shards, but back then I thought they were cool as shit. But things have changed. T'Pol's nice. He does add protected cargo. It's always a nice thing. Do you want more T'Pol shards? She does increase your ore mining speed. Yay. I think the protected cargo is where I really see the value there. So, and she's rare, so the exchange rate per tiering up, I think is good for the rares. So if you want to, tier up your T'Pol a tier or two, by all means, get you some more protected cargo. I think that's a good idea. Shren, his officer. I mean, it's warp speed and it's crystal mining speed. Do you want any of those? I don't, because I'm probably not going to use Shren on the bridge. Why would I use Shren on the bridge? It doesn't help me kill my targets. He's really not providing that much of a bonus to warp speed. I mean, 60% is nothing. It's really not. Well, for me, anyway. Maybe if you're a lower level player, you could see value in 60% warp speed increase. I don't. But again, he's rare, so you can get more tier ups with your event store currency. The epics, look, I mean, the epics are nice. Sure. I'm not saying that they're terrible, but the cost per shard is way too high. I mean, we'll be lucky if we get 600,000 event store currency free to play, which would net you 100 archer shards. But yet, it costs 115 for an unlock, and another 115 to go from tier 1 to tier 2. That's too much. That's not a good exchange rate. But by all means, if you're relatively close to an unlock, there's value in the unlock. Or, if you're 20 shards away from a tier up. Because that's the way I look at it. I understand gaining shards for officers is always a good thing. To a certain extent, it's always a good thing, especially with event store currency, because the more you spend on this officer without getting a tier up, the less rewards you're getting overall from this event store, in my opinion. If you're not going to tier up the officer, then, I mean, look at me. I need 228 to tier up. Sure, maybe I could end up with 100 archer shards. What does that do for me? Nothing. Nothing. I have 100 extra archer shards. Cool. I still need 128 for a tier. When's that going to happen? We have no idea. Is that something you want to do? I would suggest no, but I perfectly understand the theory there. But again, I mean, if you're sitting on 200 of 230, then that's a different story, right? Because that would only be 180,000 for a tier up. Check my math on that one, which isn't bad. Okay, you know. So if you're close to the unlock or you're close to the tier up, I think the shards could be worth it. Now I don't really like Archer's officer ability that much. It's okay. I think Trip is a little better, his officer ability, because of the silent enemies. But again, you made this officer specifically for this new loop. Yay! That's because that's what we want, a new loop. But again, where are you at? I'm at 41 of 200 for a tier up. I'm not going to get trip shards. I'm not. Now, if I was 41 out of 100 for an unlock, I'd probably do it. Though at the same time, from what I'm hearing, tier 1 trip isn't that good against the solid enemies, but tier 2 trip is much better. So, where are you at? How much does it cost for the unlock? How much does it cost to tier up to tier 2? And you know what? We're done talking about the officers because there's only 4 of them in there. That's terrible. Wow. All right, go to the blueprints. I don't recommend getting any of the faction ships. I don't recommend getting the Devore. You can get them from your weekly Alliance Legions token things. Mantis. You want the Mantis to unlock the refinery. The ship itself is trash. I use my Talios. You can use whatever other ship. I mean, your G4 ships should be just as good as long as you have Tal. I don't remember what the sourcing is for the Mantis. Is it event store only? Oh, incursions. So, but again, there's another event store. Are you getting enough incursion coins to get you a Mantis? Do you want to supplement that grind with this event store? If you don't have a Mantis, there's no reason to get a second Mantis. I can see some value in the Mantis. Again, I say the Defiant is trash. Maybe it's a personal opinion, but I just think the ship is too low. Its ship ability is not nearly as effective as, let's say, the Vidar's ship ability against the Vidar hostiles. The Monavine ship ability against the Monavine hostiles. It's nowhere near as good. Voyager or Voyager and its Delta Quadrant hostile ship ability. The Defiant does not compare. It's terrible. Voyager. I think there's good sourcing for the Voyager, or maybe okay sourcing. Go get you them Hirogen relics. I got several videos on the Voyager loop. Should be under some kind of Voyager loop playlist. But I think there's good sourcing, so don't worry about that. I don't think the baby jellyfish is worth anything anymore. Monavine. They moved Monavine blueprints to 2-star territories, so you should be okay. Does kind of depend on your income of ISO emulsion. I do think you should be getting enough to max pull the Monavine blueprints every week. So I don't think you should use your event store currency, but I can perfectly understand getting maybe a few pulls to quicken that. But honestly, if you're not, let's say, I want to say the high 40s, maybe 47, 48 is where I think you could really start needing the Monavine. If you're below that, like if you're in the mid 40s and lower, you don't need to worry about the Monavine yet. You can slow play the Monavine. It won't really become really useful until the high 40s and into the 50s. So I would slow play that. Save your event store currency. The Titan, I don't like the Titan's free-to-play path, and that's why I got my Titan from the event store. I just valued export credits higher. With all the researches that were there, with all the daily pulls you could get from the Xborg, and now with the favors, I value that currency. I don't want to use it on a Titan. So I got mine through the event store. Now, do you want to kind of supplement it somehow? Half from the event store, half from the export faction store? That's not a bad idea. You know, halvesies on the currency there, split it up a little bit. Lessen the impact on either side. But I do recommend getting a Titan. You have to boost every day. Well, you don't have to boost every day, but all you do for, its progression is click the boost every day and you can get pulls. Well, send to the little central hub of the silent enemies. Send your Titan there, send your main ship in there, about to grind in there. Titan boost your ship and then send it in for the silent enemies. Boom, you're done your Titan A grind. Send it home and then start killing silent enemies. You can knock out 2 grinds and kind of the same thing. But not that there's really a grind for the Titan. But again, you can use this to aid other loops. So there's value there. I say the Nova sucks. Protected cargo is too low. So I say don't. But, some of these decisions you're just going to have to make on your own. I got a Nova. Not very happy with it. Becca actually convinced her not to get a Nova yet. I don't know how I did because she never listens to me. But she's actually getting close to grinding out a free one. Of course, she's 56, so it's taking her a while. But she's doing okay mining without a Nova. It can be done. The logic we were using for G4 players was, don't get the G4 faction miners because they're so expensive. You need all your G4 for all that other stuff. All the other researches and warships and buildings. Well, it's the same with G5, right? You want all your G5 materials for your buildings, your researches, and your warships. You want to spend it on a mining ship? Or do you want to send your now useless G4 materials on a G4 faction miner? Can they get the job done? Yes, they can absolutely get the job done. You don't need a G5 miner. Do you want the warp range? Okay, sure. You want the warp range. I don't need the warp range. But again, that's me. Where are you at? Again, faction ships is separate as D3. It's really just a collector's kind of piece. It's really no value at all. It's not even better against separatist bosses, which is kind of stupid. Sarcophagus is trash. If you don't have a Vidar, you can get Vidar through Cosmic Cleanup, but I would kind of... I don't think it's a bad idea to, like what I was saying with the Titan, right? Get a few from the event store, get a few from the Cosmic Cleanup, the free-to-play path, to speed up that acquisition is useful. Now, do you have to? No, but, I do see value in that. Faction ships trash. North Star is stupid. No protected cargo. Meridian, I don't use Meridians anymore. Because of the bigger nodes, I use my bigger ships, my G4 faction miners. Bigger protected cargo. So I just, okay, it takes me an hour or 2 to clear a node. Well, I cleared the whole node and it's all protected cargo. How are things on your server? Do you need to mine really fast Get in on a node, get out of there before somebody blows you up. There's use there. I just see less use, especially on my server. For the most part, we're like a UPC target is it's kind of silly to take out. Really, it really is. Like, what's the point? I mean, especially on a territory node, because you can't even mine on the node. You could just go in there and blow them up. Okay, cool. However, I'll just repair and go back out. I don't give a shit. And with all the speed for Meridian, it has almost become active mining for Isogen. Do you like that? I don't really like that. So, Fisha blueprints, sure. I mean, I guess there's some value there. How do you get a Fisha free to play? You have to max scrap a Devore, which sucks. So there can be some. I mean, do you want a Fisha? Other than mining concentrated latinum, there's no use for it. So do you want a Fisha or not? I think it was fairly cheap. It's fairly cheap. It really is. So you can get one. I mean, you can only get half, which is stupid. But get some Fisha shards. Then you won't need to scrap a level 41 Devore. You might be able to scrap a 36 level Devore. It's doable, I guess. Cerrito, I think the event gives you enough blueprints for the Cerrito, so don't worry about that. This is what I was talking about with the Stella. You can, and I do think it is useful in that loop to get a second Stella, but get the free one first. Okay, if you haven't gotten a free one yet, hurry up. You got 11 days, and then you can get a second one if you want to. You get in and out of that loop faster, I think, and it feels less painful, because if you only have one Stella, then you're constantly doing a max scrap on that one Stella. The purpose of having two is you take one Stella and you max it, and you leave it there. Your second Stella is the one that you do the max scraps with. So you always have a max Stella to kill armadas and hostiles with. It's beneficial. It really is. No faction bullshit. Botany Bay, you can get that free to play real easy, so it's not worth it. And getting a second one, honestly, isn't worth it either. Faction ships, no. Franklin is garbage. Amalgam and Discovery, same thing with the Vidar. You can get them through Cosmic Cleanup, so maybe supplement these, because there's 3 ships, right? There you got Discovery, you got Amalgam, you got Vidar. I don't remember what the hell are ships. I think Sarcophagus and Franklin, but they're garbage ships, so don't worry about them. So if you can supplement these 3 ship acquisitions, it could be beneficial for the event store. I do see some value there, but only for your players that relatively early in your Star Trek Fleet Command experience. Some of you are a lot further along. Wow, okay, and we're done with the event store. That's why we're saying it's one of the worst event stores ever, because officers is usually the thing that changes. There isn't a whole lot else that changes. So, if you've been doing this for a while, you got a lot of that shit. A lot of these are one-time purchases. So, like a Vidar or Discovery, Amalgam, Titan. You're not going to get another one. So, it comes down to new officers, and the bucket sucks. And that is kind of why I think I put a little more emphasis on the currencies, the Forbidden Tech currencies. Forbidden Tech's not going anywhere. It's really not. It's disappointing. The acquisition of the catalyst and the proto matter, it's too slow. So getting some from the event store can be beneficial, especially during a month where I think the officers suck. Now I don't have the Cerritos skin, so I will probably get that. I haven't been exactly decided yet because there is use there using the Cerrito more because of these damn Zindi and the silent asshole loop. That's probably the most I see, unless you with like I was saying with Trip and Archer. Trying to wrap this up here. Forbidden text stuff, there's value there. Maybe the Cerrito refit and the officers, but the officers are weak. I think they're weak unless you're close to a tier up. The officers are weak. They're good officers. Look, Archer is very useful. Trip is very useful. Really only useful in these new loops, which is why we're not that happy these past few months. So getting some more shards of these officers, assuming you're close to a tier up, can be beneficial. But it's a very lackluster event store. It really is. It's like, wow. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've seen a worse event store. Comment below. That is the sentiment going around, that this is the worst event store. Do you agree? I think one of the big draws to an event store is the officers, mostly because they're the one thing that always changes. You almost never, I don't think I ever have seen officers show up in the event store on back-to-back event stores. I don't think I've ever seen it. So that's the allure there. There are new officers in there. Officers that don't have great sourcing. I can get more officer shards. This is your options. These are your options. They're not that great. Unless you're close to a tier. And that's really where I see the value in this officer bucket. What do you think about that? Do you think it's worth spending all that event store currency on an epic officer shards that don't get you that close to a tier? 100 shards is 600,000. Do you really see the value in getting 100 epic officer shards if you're nowhere near a tier? Be sure to like and subscribe. I am the Angry Rhino. Shields up, Commanders.